Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Coach's Corner. My name is Dwayne Dwyer. I go by the Mindset Coach,
My name is the Uncle Junior, and I go by the Consistency Coach.
and we are your coaches for Coach's Corner. Listen, as always, if you are here and you're not looking to do anything different, you're just going to listen to the information and then go back to doing things that you were doing prior to. This may not necessarily be the place for you, but if you're looking to be a change agent, if you're looking to not only change what you're doing and change the trajectory of your life, but be an impact in other people's lives, then I think you're in the right place at the right time. Not only that, I think you were destined to sit here and listen to myself and the consistency coach in whatever medium you're looking at. If you're looking at us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, it doesn't really matter. I think it was intentional that you were here today. So I invite you, I implore you to grab you a pen and a piece of paper because when this brother here gets to spinning, it's going to be on like hot butter popcorn. So that being said, let me speak to my good friend, my brother, the Uncle Junior, also known as the consistency coach. C Square is what I affectionately call him. Sir, how are you doing on this beautiful evening?
I'm doing good, man. I am doing very well. Had a great day so far. Up to this point. Looking forward to continuing on with even better things. I don't know, man. I'm in a good mood, in a good space. Spring break, past couple weeks ago, we got. I'm off for the summer. That's one of the good things about being an educator is that you get a couple of months off during the summer. You can go back and you can reset. Whereas a lot of jobs, they're 12-month employees. So I am blessed and thankful for being able to have a job, career, profession, whatever you want to call it, to whereas I do get opportunities to relax and reset, so just having um, just knowing that that is not too far away is allowing me, just to be in a good space because the light is at the end of the tunnel. I've been busy a lot over the last couple of months, once I started coaching track and stuff like that. So I am very much looking forward to the summer, looking forward to being able to have more time to participate in certain YouTube videos and other different things that's going on with the Hearts of Men podcast and Power Perspective community and different things like that. So just looking forward for more time, man. So I'm in a great space right now, man. I know I'm kind of long-winded with that. How are you doing? But looking forward I don't know, man. Sometimes I be having modem off and I'd be wanting to talk to coach sometimes. So I be forgetting that this is, even though we're friends and colleagues and partners in this show, sometimes I forget that we're running the show. But sometimes I just want to talk to him. I just want to hang out and chill and rap to you.
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, I welcome and appreciate all of that. And again, we asked how you were doing, and you told us, and all of that was inclusive. So I don't think that was long-winded at all. And you're right about being an educator and having the summers off. But for those of us who don't get that privilege, we got PTO, so we can schedule our PTO during the summer if that's what we want to do. So
Hmm.
it's six in one hand, half a dozen the other. Whatever a person chooses to do and however they choose to implement what it is they're doing, that's the key. And as long as it works for them, some people prefer to take certain times, other than the summer. And, maybe they save their PTO for family vacations or whatever. All is right as long as it works out for them. And so I'm glad to hear that things are starting to lighten up well with you. And you can get to that honey-do list that we know that
Yeah.
Shelly got for you.
I like the honeydew list.
Yeah.
I like doing stuff, because it's all the stuff that she don't want to do or I don't necessarily want her to do. Let's
There
be
you go.
honest. She
There you
walking
go.
past the hallway and she got that ladder. I'm just like, I don't know what she about to do. You better go put some holes in the wall. Trying to hang up something because I didn't got to it, and so gotta make sure I try to get to my honeydew list before she start deciding that she want to do some of those things that I haven't done on her own. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I got you, man. But listen, I will say this for me, all is well.
mhm.
I've been busy with captains, lieutenants, things on empowering perspectives, whether we're talking the hearts of men, whether we're talking reframing the image of relationships, whether we're talking coaches corner or the hearts of women, a lot of moving parts. And some very, very good conversations have been happening over the past couple of months. So I'm extremely excited about those things. Extremely excited about the trajectory that we're moving in as a community. Extremely excited about some of the work that I'm getting to do. I view those things as a privilege, and I don't take them lightly. So I look at all of that stuff, and I count it all joy. I get excited about those things because, it's a privilege to serve people, and for me, I don't take it lightly. But enough about me. The people didn't come to hear, what's going on in my life. They wanted to hear what's going on in Coach's Corner. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna back up off the mic and I'm gonna turn it over to my brother C Square, because he is driving the train today.
Well, as you back up, I'm gonna grab a hold of the steering wheel and grab his choo-choo train. So, folks, tonight we're gonna be talking about your name is your brand and why integrity matters. And I just want to start off with a small thought that, we all have, with some of us on here, we have sons, we have daughters, and most of us have last names. And, at some point early on in my life, I didn't really think about my last name. My last name is Martin, not Junior or not Coach, as some of y'all may think. It's actually Martin. So, I have three sons and they carry on the Martin name too. I don't have any daughters. But the thing about a name at some point, it can have a lot of meaning to it. You know, um, it's different for others. If you look at certain communities, when the marriage happens, they take both names. They take the mother's name, they take the father's name, different things like that. So I just wanted to start by saying that this conversation is for any and everybody. It's for all of us. And I just, as we go through this, just want you to think about your name and what your name means to be the name that you have, whether it's your last name, your first name, whatever, because at the end of the day, your name is your brand, and we're going to get into it tonight. So, Coach, with that being said, when you hear the phrase "your name is your brand," what does that mean to you? I kind of talked about it, but I didn't go into any. I didn't want to get too specific. So when you hear this, what does it mean to you?
So number one, I do love this question, and it kind of takes me back, and I may say it a couple of times. And this is something I did not know when I was younger. Nobody ever taught it to me this way. But when you hear or you read the phrase or the term, or read the passage, I say it that way, honor thy mother and thy father. That is in essence what it's talking about. Like, sure, we got the mantle of respect that's tied up into honor, but is it just respect? Or is it me not doing anything to discredit the name that they gave me? And I think the latter part is the more holistic part, because in the space of me not doing anything to discredit the name that they gave me, it also carries along with it respect. I not only carry myself in a respectful way, but I also respect the people who gave me the name. Now, does that mean I do everything they tell me to do at the ripe young age of 51? Absolutely not. I'm a whole full grown adult at this particular point in time. So what they think I should be doing and how I live my life is not the same thing. However, by that same token, whatever it is that I am doing, they should be able to look at me and say, you know what, son, I'm proud of you. I'm proud to see that this is the thing that you chose to do. I'm happy to see that you're successful with doing that. So when I hear your name is your brand, like the Dwyer name should mean something to all four of my kids, my two sons and my two daughters. So for them, the thing that I try to instill in them is the impressions that you make today can equate to the relationships that you acquire tomorrow. So it's not so much as living life by the seat of your pants or living your best life or doing all of those things. It's you being intentional about the life that you're living, because your name, when people hear your name, it should carry something. It should mean something to them. Every Martin that they ever encountered, should have left an impression on them. Every Dwyer that they've encountered should have left an impression. It's not the same thing as people pleasing. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that when you encounter people, it should be to such a degree that you add value to them in some shape, form, or fashion. which is unlike what the world teaches, because the world teaches like what's in it for me, myself, and I, self love, self this, self that, self that. But is it really focused on self, or is it so that you elevate yourself so that you can focus on others? And that's how your name at that particular point becomes a brand. Think about think about the things that you purchase. If you hear the name Tide means something to people who only wash their clothes with Tide, right? Now I get it. Some people think that Tide is a little pricey, especially with some of the tariffs that's going on around right now, but that's okay. For people who believe in the brand of Tide, they will still buy Tide because that's their brand. That's the brand that they believe in, and that is the brand that they trust. So when you look at certain things out there, whether we're talking Tide, whether we're talking Apple, or whatever the case may be, they live by their brand. There is a code that they have to secure that brand. Everybody don't get to work on their brand. Everybody don't get to become affiliated with them. And so I think the same thing should apply to people, right? I think when it comes down to us, we need to recognize that your name is your brand. And so, what does that name mean to you? What does that name mean to somebody else? Because if the name means nothing to you, then why would it mean something to anybody else? So I'm just going to pause right there out of fear of being long winded off of this great question.
Definitely not long-winded. I want to take everything that we said initially on this question, and then I want to add to the, cause we talked a lot about family and our children. We talked some of that about that, but I also want to talk about us, our name and our brand, as when we're at work, as an employee, as a friend, as a husband, as a spouse, as a all of these. We wear a lot of different hats. So in one space we're Dwayne Dwyer, in another space we're the mindset coach, in another space we're Uncle Dwyer, Uncle D, depend on where we go. In certain spaces we're Mr. Dwyer, so we have a multitude of different names that fall up under our brand, which is at the end of the day Dwyer and Martin, or you know what I'm saying. So when we look at everything that we said, and then we talking about your name is your brand and why integrity matters, when we talking about our workspace, can you elaborate how our name being our brand is important, as an employee, because we're all leaders up here, but most of us, even though we're leaders, we also find ourselves as an employee up under somebody as well. And I think that as an employee, I don't know. I just think that I just want to have a conversation a little bit about us being employees and what our name as a brand matters, and why integrity matters as an employee.
I don't think it changes.
Hmm.
I don't think it changes. I think still yet the driving force behind the name comes from the parents. So when I show up in the workplace, I am still carrying myself in such a manner to where in the workspace, when they hear your name, it actually
Hmm.
carries value. Like you when you get to work, whether you're an employee or an employer, right? You have certain codes that you have to live by. And most employers, they have what is called a not a code of ethics, but the values code, or core values. There you go. So the core values of the organization pretty much define what they expect their employees, how they expect their employees to behave in that fashion. So it's not just limited to manager, supervisor, or just regular employees, right? It's everybody from the CEO all the way down to the lowest employee. And so if you're not already living by those core values, then you're going to struggle in the space of that employment, because at the end of the day, eventually they're going to realize they made a bad decision in getting in a relationship with you. So ideally, you should be taught those core values at an early age. You should be taught how to add value to people, places, or just other things, in your early childhood development stages. So when I get to work and I'm doing the work that I'm supposed to do, the work that I agreed to do, I'm fulfilling what my We tend to call it a scope of work statement, but a job description. I'm fulfilling the responsibilities of the job description. That's the bare minimum. Doing the job description. That's what I'm supposed to do. But then once I get really good at doing that, I get to the point to where I start seeking to do more than that. I start seeking to help my supervisor or my manager or whatever that looks like to such a degree that I am now clearly adding value to not just the workplace, but to the people that I work with. So when they hear my name, they think of a particular thing. When I show up at work, my manager can now, exercise, exhale, and have a sigh of relief because he knows, he or she knows that, well, this person here is dependable. So I think in the workplace, I don't think the workplace supersedes what you're taught in the home. I think what you're taught in the home, or what you should be taught in the home, should be the springboard into how you live your life moving forward. So it takes everything we said previously and brings it into the workplace. Even at work, we don't, and you know this as a former soldier, even at work, sure, we have the UCMJ, we have the code of ethics and things of that nature when we were in the army, but still yet, that name, two names sit on your shirt. Us Army, uh, that's a joke for those who don't get it. Us US, Us Army, and your
Mhm.
last name. That's the reason why both of those names are there. Because even though this name was given to me by my parents, this name was given to me by the agreement that I made and raised my right hand and said, I do.
Yep. I ain't gonna take away nothing from that, man. I don't got nothing else to add to that. Did a great job of answering that follow up question, so I definitely appreciate it. I was gonna go to one question, but I want to change something since we brought up military and we both kind of mentioned it. In the military, and this is more so military specific, but if you're watching this and you find a way to correlate it to your personal life, then by all means, I hope you can. But this is military specific because we're both in the military. In the military, your name carries weight. How have that influenced your personal life and your relationship? So I'm gonna kind of set the tone for this. In the military, you retired as Sergeant First Class Dwyer. That's a different name than it is, and it's not than Private First Class Dwyer. You know, the name is the same, but the responsibility and what goes along with the rank behind the last name is different. So how has that influence? When we get out here, it ain't no rank no more. We retired now. It ain't no sergeant first class. You can walk up to somebody and they automatically can recognize your position already. In civilian world, you don't see that. In the military, you do. So again, in the military, your name carries weight. How has that influenced personal life and relationships?
Very interesting. Um, I will start off by saying initially your name doesn't carry weight.
Mm,
You go back because I joined the military at a young age.
mm-hmm,
Um, I tried the college thing first. It didn't really work for me, and then I said, "Hey, I'm going to the army full time." So going back to your basic training days, they didn't really call you by your name. It was one name that was universal for everybody in that formation,
mm-hmm,
and it was private. However, depending upon where you went to basic training at, and depending upon who your drill sergeant was, they didn't say the whole thing. They said, "Pri, come here, Pri."
mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's all
Right.
you got.
Yeah.
Come here, Pri. So, that was your name. Your name
Mhm,
was your rank initially. And then when you go to your duty station, whatever the case may be, it's still really your rank. So you're really known initially by your pay grade first. But then as you start working within the organization, it kind of changes because sure, you had a rank, a pay grade, and that pay grade preceded your last name, which was on your shirt. So everybody knew who you were, at that point in time, Private Dwyer. Sure, got it. And then you grow from Private Dwyer to Specialist Dwyer, and then from Specialist Dwyer to Sergeant Dwyer. And Sergeant carries, all of the ranks from Sergeant all the way up to Master Sergeant, unless you actually have a diamond become a first sergeant. And once you get to the pay grade of sergeant, it's almost like you're now invested. Like you start quoting the MCO creed and things of that nature and so forth and so on. And even in E5 sergeant rank, it's almost like you're the private of the sergeant corps, of the NCO corps, right? Like you're the lowest ranking NCO in the NCO course. So it's almost like you're trying to prove yourself. And
Mhm.
then something happens when you make staff sergeant. I don't know what it is. I can't put a finger on it. It's like you get buy-in. And once you get buy-in, at that point you have something in you. It's not just, putting on the uniform and all of this other great stuff. It's more so of, I put on the uniform because. And so the because becomes more important than the uniform and the pay grade and the check you get. So now when the because starts to take control of you, now it's like, hey, we got a whole bunch of staff sergeants, but staff sergeant Dwyer is different. Staff sergeant Martin is different because when they need something, they want specifically staff sergeant Dwyer, staff sergeant Martin. If they just got a tasking that needs a staff sergeant, oh, we get any of them. We got a whole bunch of them out there. But I need staff sergeant Martin because I need this one particular thing done. So now, because of the value that you added, notice the conversation's not changing. Because of the value that you add to the organization, because of the value that you add to the commander, because of you understanding what the commander wants to do in the organization, and you being a pivotal point in that. Say, somebody go get me Son Dwyer, somebody go get me Son Martin, and then next thing you know, you make Son first class, and now as a Sergeant First Class, you recognize that, well, my position is a mentor. If you did it right, you started mentoring as a staff sergeant. But as a Sergeant First Class, you most definitely start mentoring. And so it's not so much as me being able to tower over people and flex my might. No, it's me looking to extract the best version of every soldier that's in my formation to extract it out of them. Why is that important? Because I want them to understand at an earlier age than what I understood how valuable their name is. However, that doesn't become important until you get buy-in to the organization's vision. So now, once you understand what the vision is, it's no longer you fighting for position and you trying to be in the spotlight and you trying, like we used to call them spotlight rangers. You trying to be in the spotlight. You trying to be the first. No,
Yep.
you want to be the center of attention. No, once you start teaching and mentoring that at an earlier age, you find that they start progressing at an earlier age. So that's really how it influenced my life because I had a young man, and I've talked about him several times, Tony Majors, right? I had a young man that pulled me aside when I was a young staff sergeant and said, "You good?" He told me straight up, he said, "You good?" He said, "Everybody wants you. Everybody's calling me asking, can they get you because they got this going on? They got height and weight, they got a PT test going on, they need a class taught. They're all asking for you, but I won't give them you." He said, "I'm telling them no because." And I'm looking at him, I'm like, well, why would you not let me go do those things? In my mind, I'm still thinking about me, right? I want to be out there. I want the commander and the first sergeant, the sergeant major to see me out there, right? And like, no, he said, I see a lot of me in you. And he said, once you learn how to mentor, he said, then he said, I think you will really start tapping into your true potential. And for whatever reason, that conversation sat with me. And I chewed on it for a minute. I just kept going over that conversation over and over again. And then one day, I can't tell you what day it was, but something clicked. And when that thing happened, that's when the because started to show up in me. And so even with my peers, I found myself talking to them in such a way that we wasn't really, as we used to say in the army, smoking and joking. That's not literal term for those of you who don't know. That's just a way of us saying having fun. It wasn't so much of us just smoking and joking anymore. It's us now talking to one another to such a degree to where we're adding value to one another. Same pay grade. So when it came down to talking to soldiers, that's what we did. So instead of doing that, we're like, come here, soldier, let's talk. Why did you do that? What were you thinking? What was the outcome that you were trying to achieve? Did you achieve that outcome? No? Okay, cool. What would you do differently this time? So now all of that kind of springboard me up to this point because at the ripe young age of 50, these are the same conversations I have with my kids. This didn't work out for you. Okay. What did you desire to achieve? Okay. What would you do differently moving forward if presented with the same opportunity? So when we look at those things, that's how you get those text messages 10, 15, 20 years later from some of your old from some of your old soldiers, phone calls, things of that nature, Facebook messages, telling you things. And man, I'm so glad. I just want you to know I appreciate everything you did way back then. Because if you had not done this, there's no way in the world I would be here right now. And I think that to me is the culminating event of that name. Because again, if it had not been for me recognizing through the conversation with Tony Majors and some other conversations I had, the value in my name, not just us Army, right? But the value in my name, then I don't think I would have ever poured into those soldiers the way that I did because I wanted to do the same thing for other people that Tony did for me. I wanted to be that pivotal person that can have a conversation with them that make the light bulb come on.
Man, there was a lot of great information in there. Um, I definitely just want to add a little bit to that. I think that, you said a lot of great points. I'm looking at, I look back at my military life and, how, like you said, you started at one point, I got in a lot of trouble. So my name, some point carried weight, sometime it didn't. And the thing about the military is, depending on where you at, first of all, it's a small community. But then when you start going to specialized jobs and MOSs and professions like 13 Bravo, 13 Fox, 15 Quebec, all these different ones like that, it becomes even smaller. So what happened is sometimes you can get in trouble. So you get in trouble, you get Article 15, something negative on your marks. I mean, something negative happened and it's in your records. And then now this can sometimes become who you are or who you are perceived as in the military. And I'm sure it's the same thing on jobs too. When you got that person on your job who do whatever, who known for taking stuff out the refrigerator that ain't theirs, y'all know who that person is or whatever like that sometimes. And then even when something shows up and it's not them, they not at work, or whatever like that, is still they like, man, this probably still is Martin over there. His brother always stealing stuff off the refrigerator. But I think that, you know, sometimes it can affect and it can influence um relationships, it can influence promotions, it can influence a lot of different things because your name can be mud in the street sometimes if you have done some things that you may not have supposed to do. So it can influence your personal life and relationships in a negative way. You looking for that promotion, they like, nah, you hear about so and so make a phone call like, hey man, hey, Sergeant Martin thinking about coming over to the NCO Academy, and then somebody making a phone call and we talked to Dwayne, and me and Dwayne then had an issue since we was privates. You know what I mean? So now Dwayne the top dog over there, he like, nah. So I think that, you know, these are some of the other reasons why your name being your brand is important and how you monitor it and how you navigate through life. You know what I'm saying? Because if you do certain things, you're going to have there's going to be a certain name, or it's going to be a certain reputation or a certain thing attached to your name. So if you're sowing good seeds and you're doing good things, then by all means, hey, we need somebody. We're gonna send him out to Vegas, and he gonna go do the joint military forces, whatever training that is out there. He gonna be out there for 3 weeks or so, and he's a gentleman's course. Versus, hey man, nah, hey, we can't send Marcel Martin because every time he go, it's always some drama or some stuff. You know what I mean? So your name carries weight, and those things can affect you when you get out too. Especially you decide you want to be a contractor, and you working in that same space, and you didn't burn some bridges and stuff like that. Now you can't get these GS jobs or whatever like that, or your personal life. Like coach get text messages from 10, 15 years later from people that he mentored and coached and were part of their life. He added value to those people versus some MCOs out there don't never get a phone call from anybody, from anybody in their past. And, sometimes that is a sign that you have done something in the past that has been effective and you have added value to someone at some point in your life. So anything you want to add to this before we move on?
No, you're right. I mean, I think all of that is inclusive, but that kind of goes back to what I was saying previously, right?
Hmm.
It's certain things that we have to recognize as it pertains to our name and what we're doing in the space of adding value. If I don't see value in myself, it's going to be very difficult for me to add value to other people. So, don't want to kind of keep beating a horse there, but that I agree with everything that you just said.
All right.
Just stop eating other people's food out the refrigerator.
Yeah, man, I'm trying, man. But somebody has some chicken nuggets in there that look kind of good. Yeah, I'm gonna drive. I'm gonna go to a I'm gonna go to a scenario and then I'm gonna come back to a question. If you hadn't already, like, share, subscribe to this video, share it with somebody, let them know what kind of good things we got going on over here on Coach's Corner. So the first scenario is this. This is a mindset scenario. This was created specifically just for you. And if you can see it, I got a little add a little brain up there. So mindset scenario. You were passed over. We back to the job. You were passed over for a promotion you worked hard for. Now you're in your head, questioning your worth and whether to keep pushing. How do you keep your mindset sharp? And you can even take away the whole last question altogether if you want to, and just talk about the first part if you want to. Don't feel obligated to answer the question if you don't need to.
Yeah. The issue here for me is that you don't work for a promotion. I think that's where I will start at. You don't work for a promotion. Promotion is given unto you based upon, and in the army, we would say you get promoted based upon your potential, right? So you don't work, and I'm gonna keep saying this because I think it's true. You don't work for a promotion. You work to add value. Like, do your job description, number one. Get good at that. Then seek to do more than that. Promotion will come. Um, so the reason why this person is in their head is because they had a particular goal set for themselves according to the somebody else's promotion scale, and they had their heart set on the fact that they would see value in me because this is what I'm working for. But do you not necessarily believe that they see that you're working for the promotion and that there's some other people who just inherently deserve the promotion? So that's kind of like what I'm saying here. You have to go back and understand from go back to the because, right? Are you doing it because of the promotion? Or are you doing it because that's who you are? Because believe it or not, people can actually see it. People can actually see when you're pining for a thing or when you're actually doing a thing because you believe the thing that you're doing is right. Those are the people I want to promote because at the end of the day, those people will get the promotion and then continue to do what is right within the promotion that they receive. But if the person who is working for the promotion, once they get the promotion, then what? They work for the next promotion. So it's still a self centered way of being. So the way you keep your mindset sharp is to recognize how you're wired. Not, and I'm not talking about, you know, the bad wiring, right? How you're supposed to be wired. You're supposed to be wired so that when you are at the point when you are like living or living out the best version of yourself, you are doing it through the lens of serving other people. So if you're doing it out of self-service, those people, even though some of them do get promoted, those people don't necessarily they're not necessarily the first people to get promoted. So the mindset being sharp has to adjust from a self-centered perspective to a perspective that recognizes that I have this job, not, I got it. There's some, bills I got to pay, family I got to take care. We got all that part. But now, once that is off the table, now why did you get this job? Why did you get this job? Right? Once you take the obviousness off the table, why do you have this job? Right? What value are you adding to the organization? Are you doing it because you believe in the vision? Do you believe in the core values of it? The core values line up with your core values, right? All of those things should exist prior to promotion. I really do believe that every organization, and I know they're not going to do it to appease me. I believe that every organization needs to go back to some type of standard, some not standardized, but some type of test, right? And I don't think the test should be written. I think the test should be all situational because at the end of the day, if I put you through enough scenarios, then I can assess the scenarios to ascertain the truth. The truth tells me who you will be when you get said promotion. I think, sure, metrics matter, numbers matter. I get all of that point. That's productivity. But if you don't get the promotion, right, does productivity stop? I don't think so. I think productivity continues. You might be a little disappointed for not getting the promotion, but so what? Keep going. There's another promotion down the road. So don't make the promotion the focus. make you being really good at what you're doing because of who you are the focus. When you do it that way, promotions just seem to happen.
You saying that telling not to focus on promotion may be a hard pill for some people to swallow. Um, that would have been a hard pill for me to swallow when I was in the military. I did things for my soldiers. I like being an NCO, but a lot of things I did initially, especially for E7, was about trying to get that promotion. Um, You also said that I was self-centered, and I agree. Based off of the story that I'm getting ready to tell in relation to this conversation. I didn't look at it as self-centered initially, but after a while, I saw the self-centeredness in myself. So I'm going to take out the word promotion and I'm going to put position. So because there's also a lot of people who think that they should have gotten that position or that job or whatever, right? So here's my little story. So first 7 years after I got out of the military, I've been in elementary education. I've been an elementary school counselor. This school year, which is about to end, was my first year at the high school. So I only applied. I knew last year that I was leaving that school, no issues with the school. I just wanted to be at the high school. I got into school counseling because I wanted to be at the high school. Well, the high school that I was close to is where and the only place that I applied, right? So here's the data behind why I applied over there. It was close to home. I did my internship over there. I had two sons to graduate high school. Um, I coach football over there. It's a feeder school from my elementary. So all of my elementary schools, most of my elementary students, I would already know a large population of them. I already have relationships with them, the families, all of that stuff. So you know what? I filled my application. I wasn't worried about nothing else. I already knew I was going to be over at this school. I'm like, how can you not? I am the best qualified person for the job. I did not get hired. They hired a person right out of college, right? So in my head, in my mind, here we go, mindset. In my mind, I was like, there is no way in the world she is more qualified than me. At the end of the day, they hired who they wanted to hire. That was egotistical and self-centered of me to think that because of all of this, I was a shoe in. I was a shoe in my head based off of what I thought and who I might would hire. But I wasn't the hiring person in this situation. So did I get the job? Absolutely not. But I am where I need to be. But that's neither here nor there. This was about this whole scenario. So my mindset was trash. So how do I keep my mindset sharp? Is I have to let go of my ego. I have to not be self-centered about things. I have to understand that there are other different things that go on in this universe that are not centered around me. That job was not for me. Maybe the reason why we get passed over for a position or promotion is maybe that position or promotion is not for you. Maybe you're not ready to be in that position. Maybe you're overqualified. There's numerous different reasons why we're not in that position. So I think what happens sometimes is we start determining why we didn't get the position. And sometimes we just don't know. And it's okay if we don't know. And it's okay to move on. So you got to keep your mindset sharp by making sure that you get rid of that ego and don't be self-centered.
Well, I'm gonna tell you why you didn't get the job.
I
They
didn't get
called
the
me.
job.
They called me and they told me. They said you didn't get a job because they heard you was eating chicken nuggets out the refrigerator. That's all I'm saying. No, but
See, now I knew it was something. The word got around.
word got
See
around.
what happened, folks?
But but
Reputation.
but see, I love what you did there because
Mhm.
as people were listening, I wanted them to hear something. As you was giving your reasons why you should have gotten that job, you said I so many times it wasn't even funny, right?
Mhm.
And that kind of goes back to what you said, the self-centeredness, right? But here's the thing: on the backside, when we don't get the job, we got to also realize the reasons that we come up with really sound self-centered as well. because a lot of times we condition ourselves to say, well, that job wasn't for you. Well, how do you know that? You don't know that that's true or not, but it sounds really good and makes me feel really good about myself to say, well, that job, that position wasn't for me. Whether it is or is not is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is you just didn't get the job.
Didn't
Be
get the
like you said,
job.
be okay with the facts and then look at self because the only thing I can't change their hiring criteria. I
Mhm.
can't change the fact that they hired a person, in my opinion, less qualified than me because I got more experience than the person fresh out of college, right? I can't change that. But there might be some other things working behind the scene. Maybe they want somebody fresh out of college because that way they can make sure that that person does business the way that they want business to be done, as opposed to choosing somebody who already have their own blueprint on how they want to do things, so forth and so on. That could be a reason. We don't
Mhm.
know, right? But the only thing we do know is that I didn't get the job. So if we go back and look at self and say, why didn't I get this job? What is the thing that I can own within myself that helps me to realize why I didn't get the job? I would say, if you were to ask me, not saying that you did, the only thing is I put my trust in only one, right? I only applied for one job. I knew I was going to get that job and I'm done. What two I would
Amen.
tell people, saturate the market, saturate the market with the job that you want. So apply over here, 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 same job, just in different locations. And now give yourselves, put it's almost like playing the job dating game, right? Make yourself available for dating for to the job market, and then see how many people want to take you out, and then you choose the best qualified candidate according to what you deem as the best job that you want, and so that's the one you date at that particular point in time. Because let's be honest, that 90-day period, that's a dating period. That's the let's see if we're gonna continue this relationship. That's what that is. It's a date. We're gonna try this out and see how this works. Then after 90 days, we're in a relationship. So that's
Mhm.
ultimately what it looks like. So that's the only piece I wanted to add for the people out in the land. Not necessarily talking to you. I know you got it all figured out because you already got a job that you got a job and you're content in that job. But
Mhm.
for those people who are looking to change professions, don't just apply to one job, apply to multiple jobs. The multiple jobs that you want across the spectrum of what's available.
I like it. I like it. Man, moving right along. Shoot, man, we were rolling. Um, Here's a good one. Have you ever walked away from something or someone? I'm gonna add a someone to protect your name, and if so, go explain a little bit.
You stole my thunder. I was just about to say yes, people.
Yes.
I'm I'm
Uh-huh.
I'm I'm just being honest. I think
Yep.
we try to hold on to certain relationships. I'll say it that way. Um, and I do believe there are certain people that come into your life and they're there all the way through to the end. There are certain people who come into your life, they're there for a time and they're there for a season. We have had, because I think everybody can relate to this, we've all had relationships in the past. And reconnecting with those people, the nostalgia of who we used to be was like motivating. It's like, oh my God, we about to reconnect. We about to, pick up where we left off from. But what you realize is that those people are still doing the same things that they were doing 10, 15 years ago when you guys were in a relationship together. And they still want to do those things. But in your mind, like, I don't do that anymore. I don't go to clubs anymore. I don't go to bars anymore. I don't do those things. And so you let them do those things, but then by that same token, they still reach out, they still try to call you and get you to go. But then by that same token, you still have no desire. Well, eventually, you guys, even though you reconnect, you start to drift apart. And you drift apart and you still try to maintain communication, but it doesn't last. Right. It's like, hey, just call and check on you, see what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And that may happen like once every 3 months at this point. But eventually, you're going to end up severing ties because the trajectory of your lives are different. You're going this direction, they're going this direction. I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm just saying that that's the decision that they made for their life. And I think one of the hardest things that we have to do when it comes down to people is be okay with the decisions that they made for themselves. We struggle. Well, I'll talk about me. I won't talk about everybody else. I struggle when I know that a person is making a decision that doesn't have a growth trajectory behind it. I'll say it that way. But I let them make it number one because it's their life. I have no control over what they choose to do. But then by that same token, I can't just sit here and say, okay, well, you coming back or no? You know what I'm saying? So it's like I got to keep pushing. I got to keep moving. So one of the hardest things to do is to walk away from a relationship that you once valued, person that you once valued, because you two have made different life choices, and being perfectly okay with the decision that they made and not have any resentment because of the decision that they made. And I think that's where some people struggle, because when, and you've probably experienced, hey man, how's such and such doing? Man, I don't know. I ain't talked to such and such in like 3, 4 years. I ain't that sure all that.
Mhm.
That's how they doing. But now what you're expressing is your disappointment in that person to a person who had no idea that you were disappointed in that person. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So we got to be careful in the midst of this. So even though the question says something, I just wanted to alter it to someone, because I think everyone has that experience. Do we have the experience of walking away from something to protect our name? Absolutely. I think a lot of us had to walk away from the nightlife to protect our name, because the nightlife didn't care about you, your name, your family, not none of that stuff. So I think all of those things can be, and again, I'm not saying that people who still enjoy the nightlife are bad people. I'm just saying I needed to walk away from it, because in my era, I'll say it that way. In my era, there was no good thing that I could identify in the nightlife that I couldn't get in the daytime. Was the stores open at night? Sure, but I wasn't going to the stores. Okay, cool. Was the gas station open at night? Sure, but I wasn't going to the gas station. I go to the gas station in the morning, so I wouldn't have to go at night. Okay. So where is it that you're going? You're going someplace that consisted of group setting, loud music, alcohol, men and women, right? But what was the results of you doing so? Absolutely nothing. It resulted in nothing, or a very bad decision that caused you some frustration for years to come. So I would say that people and things, yes, absolutely. Jobs. Do we need to walk away from some jobs to protect your name? Yes. There's some jobs, and not all jobs, right? But there's some jobs, when you look at those particular jobs, even though that job was created for a reason, you may have made a decision in your life, and you no longer believe in what that job stands for. So I think all of those things can be true. But I can continue to go on
Yeah.
about this, but I digress at that point.
No, I mean that's a good point. Jobs. I didn't think about jobs, but um, good, bad, or indifferent. If you, I'm just gonna throw it out there. If you are a young lady and you decide to um, be a stripper, that may play a part in the ability to choose the type of man you may want in the future. You know what I mean? Because your name, maybe, especially if you live in a small community, your name is whoever the stripper or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And your name got attached to that. I don't know, at a young age. Just but just like you said with people, like you're talking about, we got sons and daughters and different things like that. If we're on here and we're on hearts of men, hearts of women, coach's corner, bible study, all these different programs, and we're trying to be upstanding men, but not without fault. None of us on any of these platforms are perfect, however, we are all, it seems like, trying to live a certain type of lifestyle. So, and then if you go out there and then you attach um adultery, or you attach robbing people, stealing from people, you attach these other things to your name. Now your name have no integrity. No one's coming over here and watching Uncle Junior if on social media they know that he follows and looks at all of these things that may not be appropriate. You know what I mean? It's gonna be like, how you come on here saying one thing, you live in a totally different life. So I think it's very important that how our lifestyle and how we live matches up with what we are producing and what we are displaying on social media and different things like that. So I've definitely had to walk away from some things to protect my name, and still do, um, and I'll just leave it at that and then move on. People and things, So anything else you want to add to it?
No, man. I think we pretty much covered all of it right there.
All right. Let me jump down. I think I got some true false questions. Let me go down here. Um, Here's a good one. True false. A man's reputation matters more than his action when no one is watching. This is a good one. I saw this. I saw this and I was like, yeah. But this one I didn't come up with on my own.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of people believe this is true,
Hmm.
but it is not. I think because of his actions when no one's watching, that sets the stage for his reputations. Because ideally, the assumption with this question is that what he does when people are watching is more thought about. He uses a lot of forethought in the things that he do because he don't want the negative secondary and tertiary effects. However, when no one is watching, he live by the seat of his pants, do whatever it is you want to do. I think this is 100% false because at the end of the day, if we're talking about character, your character is going to lead you to do the thing whether someone's watching or not.
I get down with that. I'm in the same mindset you are with this question. True false. Now, this one I'm still thinking about in my head. I've been thinking about it for about a week. You can't be consistent in fitness if your life is chaotic. So I'll answer it first. My belief is that this is false. Um, I believe that you can be consistent in your fitness if your life is still chaotic. I think if you look at certain professionals and stuff like that, a lot of those guys are very consistent with their fitness, and a lot of them have some chaotic lifestyles too. So for me personally, initially I think some would could easily see how this could be true, and if you rocking with true, then go ahead and rock with true. But for me, based off my thought process, I would say that this question would be false.
Fitness as a distraction.
There you go.
That's what I would say. This is
Yep.
100% false. Even if you're rocking with it being true, I'm going to tell you that you're wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Because
Yeah.
look, I was a walking example of that at one point in time.
Yep.
I was in the
Mhm.
I was in the best shape of my life when I had so much chaos going on in my life. So I'm yeah, this is 100% false.
I like when you said fitness as a distraction because that's okay. I remember that too, man. I was going, man, you can get in some of the best shape in your life when you got drama going on.
Mhm.
Because you, especially when using it as a distraction, he's like, man, I ain't worried about her. I ain't worried about this, man. I'm going here and lift these weights. I'm going to get these gym. And I'm gonna tune out on everybody for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
In
That's
fact,
a huge distraction.
in fact,
Huge.
it might be because of you I'm in there lifting them weights.
It probably is because of you I'm in there lifting these weights. Well, I'm over here
Right,
kicking this bag and punching
right,
this thing.
right.
I can go home and hold my tongue.
There you go.
All right. Here we go. Here's another one. You can outgrow your mindset without ever changing your environment. Here you go, mindset coach. What you got on this one, mindset coach?
No,
Said no.
no. I'm sorry. Um, so the question to me, I'm struggling with it just a little bit. Uh,
Hmm.
you can outgrow your mindset. That's the part that I'm kind of stuck with. Outgrow your
Mm,
mindset without changing your environment. So I think what the question is asking is that I can elevate my mindset without changing my environment. And if that's the question, I would say no,
okay.
because your mindset requires an environment change. Um, Yeah, that's kinda like where I'm going with. So the answer to this for me is false. Once you change your mindset, you start changing your environment. I'm not necessarily saying change people, right? That's different. But the environment will change. I kind of gave an example about, the nightlife earlier. Once I started seeing things differently and I started considering things from a different perspective, the nightlife was no longer for me. That was a change in environment. Now, did I necessarily change the people at first? No. But the people who stayed attached to the nightlife environments, those are the people I had to disconnect myself from because I no longer wanted to talk about the things that they were talking about. So just an example of that.
Yeah, I get that. Same thing. And I think environment, but you already hit on. I know you said adding to it. You already did a good job of it. Last true or false question: if someone disrespects you once, they don't value the relationship. This
Ooh,
should be easy, but I know a lot of people who, man, they only got to tell, they only got to say something to me one time.
yeah. So no, that's not true. This is false. Um,
Uh-huh.
because again, I think what's disrespectful to you may not necessarily be disrespectful to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they disrespect you is an opportunity for you guys to have a great conversation if you are mature enough to have said conversation for the sake of the relationship. Again, the because, right? The relationship again is the most important person in the relationship. So do I stand on my do I stand on my square and defend my turf because I'm still in a place of self-defense? Well, if I'm in a place of self-defense, that speaks more about me than the person who disrespected me. They could have made an honest mistake. I just made an honest decision.
I agree with that. I'm in the definitely agree with that. Like you said, what one person may deem as disrespectful, the other person not. It may be cultural, you know. So someone may be hypersensitive. So yes, I agree. So I think what we're gonna do lastly, I'm looking at the time. Let's do this last scenario question and then we'll wrap it up from there. So here's a relationship scenario. Um, most of us, if you've lived to our ripe old age of 50, 51, around this age, 55, if rolling watching, you find out your friend is talking about you behind your back. You value loyalty, but you don't want to react emotionally. How do you respond?
Well, first and foremost, I need to talk with you about this talking behind your back because you done brought this scenario up a couple of times.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
um, so no, I think that's really the answer though. I think the response is to go to that friend and have a conversation. I think that's always going to be the answer as it pertains to a relationship. If it's a relationship that I value, a person that I value, like you said, I value loyalty. And so maybe I deem the person talking about me behind my back as them being disloyal. But what I might learn is that the person was talking about me behind and I'm not and I'm gonna alter that just a little bit, not necessarily talking about me, but talking to someone else about a situation with me. Maybe maybe that person felt that they couldn't come to me and talk to me, so they went to someone else to have a conversation with them to see how they would handle it. But when it got back to me, it got back to me as they were talking about me. So I'm not quickly moved when I hear someone talking about me. Initially, I'm like, okay, well, I hope they got what they were looking for from that other person. Or if it's something of a different magnitude, I'll go to them and say, hey, man, can we talk real quick? Yeah. It was brought to my attention this, that, this, that, this, that, and the third. Now, your first inclination may be to ask who, but let's have the conversation first before we talk about the who. And maybe in the conversation, you may understand who the who is, and I may not even have to share it with you. So I think all of those things are available. I think in our younger years, we looked to sever our ties because this person was talking about me. But I think as we mature, what we realize is that maybe this person was talking to somebody else because they don't feel I'm approachable. This is a situation that they find issue with and they want to know how they would actually handle it because they value that person's opinion as well. So all of those things are available. How do you respond to it? It depends on your relationship with that person, right? You can go to that person directly. You can wait for that person to see if they got the information from the other person so they can come talk to you. But that's for you to decide given the context of it. Do not decide based upon the fact that you want to react emotionally. Those are never great decisions.
Man, I like that 100%. And I ain't gonna add to that one either. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna wrap this show up. Um, we don't have any more questions, so I just want to close out. not even with the final thought or actionable advice or anything like this, but just maybe a couple of anything extra that you may want to just share or leave behind to anybody. And I this is the question that we're going to just talk about, but this is the ending question kind of sort of at the same time. So just real quickly, in not so many words, and I'll do the same, because this is for the people in the chat to in the audience. If someone Googled you in 20 years, what do you hope they'd find? So this is what we're going to end with, and then we'll see y'all next week. So, Coach, if someone Googled you in 20 years, what do you hope they'd find?
I think for me, this is simple. Um, First, that I was human. I made a lot of mistakes in my life. Secondly, I got kids, and they're all adults, but they're still my kids, and I want the best out of their life, for them. And then thirdly, that I did everything that I could to give, and I don't really want to say give back, but to serve people. I think those three things are important in no predefined order, whatever, right? I was human. I made a lot of mistakes. I have four kids that I love dearly, and I want the best for them. And then last but not least, I did everything I could to serve God's people. And I think that is, if they find that, I'll be pleased.
Mm. If someone Googled me in 20 years, I hope they'd find that, first of all, again, like you said, I like the mistakes piece that, this guy made a lot of mistakes and, he still got to this point. He was an honorable man. He stood up for what was right. He tried to do the right thing. And he lived his life in accordance to something that could be valued and respected. So that's what I hope that people would, look at and see about me when they Google me in 20 years. Anything else, Coach?
No, man, that's it. I think this was
All
great.
right, we'll see y'all. We'll see y'all next Tuesday. Have a good one.